This video is cursed. And I'm sorry to be the one to have to tell you. But now you're gonna die in 7 days. Or was that the plot of that Ring movie? Anyway, you have 7 days to hit the subscribe button. So go ahead and do it. Just do it now. Go. On to the insanely heinous Creepypastas, written and narrated by Dr. Heinous. Number 1. I'm the worst human being in the world, and now I'm being punished. I wouldn't expect you to understand why I did what I did. You've never been in my situation, but it's hard to think when you see something like that. To have caused such horrifying destruction. I had only had a couple of drinks. It was an office Christmas party, how could I not? It's not my fucking fault. It would have been fine if it wasn't raining, and I didn't make it rain. What am I saying? Of course it's my fault. Why was she even on the road? It was like 3 a.m. and she's like 90 or some shit. I struggled to stand due to my drunken stupor, looking down into the ditch, wondering how in the hell her frail little body made it through the windshield. None of her limbs in the position they should be. Her head laid next to her body, mouth wide open like she was screaming. I don't want to go to prison. It was an accident. There's no point to call emergency services, right? I'm fine. My car can drive, and she's dead. There is no emergency. I didn't pass a single car as I drove home, leaving the mangled Prius and even more mangled corpse in the ditch. That night I fell into the deepest, most peaceful sleep I ever had. The next morning I went about my usual routine. Shower. Nothing better for a hangover than a hot shower. Breakfast. I've got to stop getting Frosted Flakes. They barely frost them anymore. Brush teeth. Why do my gums bleed when I floss? Is that what gingivitis is? I'll make an appointment next week. My reflection stared back with judgment. You killed a woman. You killed a woman and you left her in a fucking ditch. You're a piece of shit. You're a fucking monster that deserves to die. But I'm not in prison. It's Saturday, so I need to get groceries. I haven't looked at the news. I'm afraid to. Are they looking for a gray F-150? I sure as hell shouldn't drive mine. I guess I'll have ramen noodles instead. What the fuck is that popping noise? I keep seeing shadows move. Now I can't make out the shapes, just abstract forms. I can't shake the feeling I'm being watched. I feel its gaze forcing chills down my spine. I see her now. First it was the silhouette of her headless, mangled body on the other side of the shower curtain. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I can't not see her now. She is everywhere I see. In the corner of every room. In every reflection. In my every peripheral. I hear her disfigured form popping as she paces at the foot of my bed as I pretend to sleep. The endless sound of her disconnected and broken bones rubbing against each other. The popping is louder now. Constant. Like she's circling me at all times. What do you want? I'm sorry, okay? It was an accident. I turned to stare at the crippled form for the first real time. How can you even stand? Her displaced and jagged bones that protrude out of her thin paper-like skin, somehow supporting its own weight. I stare into the eyes that bulge from the severed head held in the figure's arms. Do you want me to kill myself? Is that what you want? 'Cause I'll gladly do it at this point. I grab my gun, cock it, then put it to my head. I can't live like this. I can't live with you. You fucking bitch. I'd rather just end it. I open my eyes. The figure continuously popping as it leaves its corner in my direction. I pull my magazine. It's full. There's one in the chamber. I put the gun to my head and try again. Why am I not dead? Is this not what you want? I fix my aim on the monstrosity, which is now 3 feet from me. I pull the trigger. The bullets pass right through her. I drop to my knees. I can hear her popping frame standing over me. I bury my head between my knees. Please just kill me. Just let it be over. Just fucking kill me. I wake up in a puddle of my own vomit, just as the police bust through my door. A female cop screams when she makes her way through the doorway. Before I knew it, the police had me flipped over and cuffed. It was when they got me on my feet that I saw what had filled her with such terror. Across the room on the floor lay the body of the old woman, still and broken on the floor, her head held tightly in her hands. They labeled the wreck a drunken accident and me a sick son of a bitch. I was charged for manslaughter and got a 25-year sentence after they added on some more time for moving the body. The thing is, they had no physical evidence that I transported the body. No blood in my truck, no blood on my clothes, none of my DNA on the body. How was she really there? How did her body leave the ditch that I left her in? I know I'll never know, but I have a lot of time to think about it in here. I look around and see rapists and murderers, but honestly, I feel safe. Safe from the true evils of the world that I know exist. These bars may keep me in, but they also keep other things out. Number 2. I'm a filmmaker, screenwriter, and pretty much anything else that you can think of that goes along with that. I'm lucky enough to have made a nice home for my wife and child. We have a nice-ish house with a decent-sized building in the back that I've made into a nice studio. It's mostly just a nice place to get some writing or editing done. The town we live in is nice, really backwoods, but was voted safest city in the state last year, so I guess that counts for something. I guess it's easy to get that kind of title when there's nothing but woods and a population of about 5,000 people. It's on the outskirts of a major city about 45 minutes out and mostly wooded areas. One night, I was in my studio filming a comedy sketch infomercial about a home security system from a company called Home Alone Security, where the security package includes everything Kevin McAllister used in the movie Home Alone. When I heard this extremely loud bang on the side of the building, Now it was so loud that I heard it through my horribly loud Billy Mays impression I was doing. It gave me that instant feeling of pure dread, like when something happens that you know should never happen. And I say this because we have no family around us, nor do I have any friends to speak of due to the recent move for work. Now I knew it wasn't my wife because the building is a good ways away from the house, hugged up against the wood line, and she needed to be inside with our newborn baby. To be honest, it's more on the woods part of the wood line due to the growth wrapping around it. I like the seclusion, plus it's far enough away from the house that I don't get any cries from the baby in the footage. But now all I could think about was how those two things made this situation really bad. Now I stood there, with paint cans attached to strings, blinded by my softboxes, trying to figure out what the fuck that was. It could be an animal, but one hard, intentional sounding hit and then run? Plus, I would have heard it running away due to the leaves and the thin sheet metal walls. Maybe something fell from the trees. The only thing wrong with that is I knew 100% that it came from the side and not the roof. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind when crazy shit starts happening is my family. No matter what hit the side of the building, I was pretty positive that it was still standing in the same exact spot. So without thinking, my flight mode kicked in and I decided to fling the door open and run straight line to the house as fast as I could, slamming the door behind me. I didn't look back. Whatever it was, if it was going to catch me, it was going to fucking catch me, so I might as well not see it coming. I made it up the stairs and in the door, where my wife was in the kitchen breastfeeding, and I scared her so bad that her nipple popped out of my son's mouth. She was like, "What the fuck are you doing? You scared me." And while struggling to catch my breath, I said, "A loud noise on the building. Some monster or some shit." She looked at me in disgust and relatched our baby. Not in a bitchy way. My wife is the perfect angel, just in a "you and your silly shit better go back outside before you wake up this baby." I finally compose and explain myself, and she pretty much blows it off as something falling from the trees. Then I'm like, so a fucking acorn just ever so perfectly rolls down the tree branches like those balls in the elaborate mousetrap type bullshit YouTube videos and bashes up against the side of the building? She says whatever, kisses me, and tells me to stop being a pussy. I decide to stop being a pussy and head back out to finish my ridiculously overdramatic infomercial when I notice the door to my building is open. I know for a fact that I slammed it shut. There's no way that it didn't shut because it's never been able to shut until last week when I fixed it so it would shut. But now it's not shut. Maybe it just didn't shut. I go in, nothing seems out of sorts, so I set my shot back up and realize the battery on my cannon is dead. What the fuck? I guess I left it running. Of course I left it running, because I was too busy running. I decided I was too tired to change the battery, so I just shut down for the night. I turned my lights off, put the camera away, and then went inside and watched a few episodes of Grey's Anatomy before I went to sleep. About an hour later, I woke up to the sound of whistling outside my window. And I can tell it's trailing off down the side of the house towards the front yard. I grab my pistol and run outside to see nothing. But I can still hear the whistle. It's got to be 200 yards down the pitch black street. I decided it was best to just call the cops and take a look around the house. They said they were on their way, so I go up back to take a look around, and sure enough, my door on the building is open again. Now, most of my equipment I keep in the house. I do keep one DSLR out there so I don't have to lug it back and forth. But when I go in, I'm surprised that my camera and equipment is untouched. The only thing that had been messed with is my mini fridge. The door was wide open and most of the snacks, including my bottle of Evan Williams, is gone. Soon after, the cops show up and tell us something that sent chills down our spines. Apparently, there had been a prison escape at the penitentiary 2 towns over. Someone from the psych ward. They assured us that he wasn't violent and asked if anything was missing. I told them just the things in my mini fridge, and they look around the property, make a report, and leave. What more can they do? The next morning, I head back out to the building to get some more work done when I remember My battery's still dead, and I still don't feel like changing it. So I sit down to get some editing done. That's when I find it. Me, the bang, my escape out of frame, and then him. 3 minutes and 26 seconds after I leave, he comes into frame. A tall, lanky man with long, scraggly hair, wearing what looks like is a woman's nightgown, holding the most terrifyingly old and rusty machete that I've ever seen. Now he stands there, looking into the camera, then just walks out of frame. I can tell by his footsteps that he does not exit the building. It records for another 5 minutes, then cuts off. I'm sitting there stunned, trying to process the amount of fucked up that is this situation. That's when I remember the 2-foot gap behind my green screen. Had he been behind there the whole time? Apparently, he had got the gown from an elderly couple's house near the prison, where he also got the machete. Luckily, they weren't home at the time, so they were fine. But I don't want to think about what would have happened if I had decided to film some more that night. Or worse, if he had made his original target my house. Number 3. I was one of those lucky kids. Back when having a cell phone meant you were cool. The TV guide told you everything you needed to know, and saying talk to the hand meant fuck you. And don't be mistaken, 90s kids are pre-1995. If you're born after 1995, talk to the hand. As a 12-year-old in 1997, I fit into a lot of cliques, but like most kids, no matter the group that you belong to, no one really understood the growing popularity of the whole emo goth thing. Of course, it started in the 80s, but the 90s is when it got really popular in the middle schools. One thing will never change. Children are evil. Helen Ackertine was our first goth girl. Finding a place to fit in at a new school is hard for anyone, but for Helen, it was a living hell. She was the black mass that had everyone's attention as she made her way through the corridors of the school that treated her like a stigma. A glimpse of her paper-cut wrist before pulling her sleeve down. Her black diary she constantly wrote in that was decorated in what could only be described as demonic hieroglyphs. All it takes is one kid, one asshole that leads the whole student body in an all-out assault against one person. The new kid. A kid with 4 eyes. No, the fat ass. But that one random lunch period that Tommy Richards built his army against Helen was a day our school would never forget. Just before our 3 months of sunny freedom, we got a break from our usual bitch of a teacher, Mrs. Bailey, and had a sub named Mrs. T. Now, her name wasn't actually Mrs. T. I just don't speak Japanese. She thought it would be a good idea to teach us the art of origami. In particular, the paper fortune tellers that give you an answer to a question after making a series of choices. Choose the color blue, then the number 8, and unfold the corresponding corner to reveal your answer. Usually the answers would vary like that of a magic 8-ball. Yes, no, most likely, definitely not. But it was Tommy who got really creative with it. I was sitting 2 tables down from Helen when Tommy started walking around with his special fortune teller. Apparently he had written down all the names of the girls from class, and whoever you got you would date. Tommy went from boy to boy, each time leaving the participant in disgust, while laughter roars from the growing group of boys that now follow Tommy. After he had the attention of at least 40 other students, he revealed that every choice had been Helen. This caused the room to fill with booming laughter, and the faint cries of Helen as she ran to the bathrooms. I didn't see Helen after lunch. I wasn't surprised. She was just humiliated in front of the whole lunchroom, including our teacher, Mrs. Bailey, who did nothing but laugh. Imagine everyone's surprise when Helen walked back into class at the end of the day at 2:45 and sat down, placing a very particular paper fortune teller on her desk. Black with strange markings. Obviously, everyone was intrigued. Helen had never participated in the weekly fads, so this raised a lot of interest. Of course, Tommy was the first to confront her. "I see you made a paper fortune teller," he mocked. "Would you like to try?" she said. "Pick a symbol." A smug grin slid across Tommy's face. "Why, so you can get me back for yesterday?" "Okay, I'll play." Tommy pointed to one of the 4 symbols. After an unknown number of shuffles from the fortune teller, it was time to choose the number. But there were no numbers. Instead, each choice was just a simple word: hate, evil, fear, and pain. The word fear leaves Tommy's mouth before Helen reveals his answer. 1 week. What the fuck does that mean? After a scalding from Mrs. Bailey, Tommy sits down as she approaches Helen. "What's this?" Mrs. Bailey asked. "This is my paper fortune teller. Would you like to try? Choose a symbol," Helen said. Mrs. Bailey points to a symbol. Next, says the word pain, before the words 1 day was shown. "I don't get it," she said. "Sit down, class is starting." The next day at lunch would be very different. Instead of Helen sitting alone at the corner table, kids were lined up to see what her fortune teller was about, all leaving confused and dissatisfied. Soon after, all the attention would shift from Helen to the police cars and ambulances pulling up outside the school. The whole lunchroom stood at the windows as the paramedics loaded the body into the ambulance. All except Helen, who just sat there with a smile on her face. I had never seen her smile before. It was strange. This wasn't a regular smile. She just sat there, satisfied. We spent the rest of the day in the gym watching documentaries. We had no clue why. My parents met me as I stepped off the bus. That's when I learned Mrs. Bailey had died. She was the body that was rolled out on the gurney. I didn't understand. She seemed fine in class. 2 days later, Amber, the girl that was first in line to get her fortune, died in a car accident. Her dad hit a pothole, causing her to accidentally inhale a plastic straw and choke, like a goddamn sea turtle. The next day, the twins and Jimmy Davis all died by their fortune's time. Over the course of a week, the class had dwindled down to just me, Helen, and a handful of other kids, including Tommy, who had changed. He wasn't the big popular bully that he usually was. He was quiet, reserved, scared. After Mrs. T excused herself to the restroom, Tommy was on his knees in front of Helen's desk, begging her not to let him die today. His tears dropped to the floor as he attempted to force words through his sobs, but he was too late. Tommy's body hit the floor, just as multiple heads hit their desk. All that was left was me and Helen, who was sitting there, smiling. I never saw Helen after that day. I wondered if the reason for her coming to our school was similar to the reason she left. 14 kids had died all within a week of Helen's fortune teller. No foul play was suspected since they had all died from natural causes or accidents outside the school. In Tommy's case, a heart attack. It was the fear of death that actually killed him. One thing's for sure. I'm glad I didn't get my fortune that day. Number 4. Do me a favor. If you're in a room where noises are being made, find your headphones and put them on. Not to listen to me, but to listen to the muffled sounds of your house. Sounds a little different, but you can still tell what's going on around you. Now try with music on, or just listen to me. You should at least hear footsteps, low chatter, maybe one of those loud-ass AC window units like I have. It's not like headphones make you fucking deaf. You hear things. But the noises that I hear with my new headphones, I shouldn't. Where I live, there's a place called Mountaintop, where people come together and eat funnel cake, pretend to be interested in buying baby animals just to play with them, and sell each other random shit. You get up at like 5 a.m., drive to the top of this mountain, and walk around in the heat for 3 hours, leaving with a bunch of shit you never knew you needed. I suffered through a trip 2 weeks ago with a full leg cast on. That sucked, but it was worth it because, well, I love funnel cake. After the funnel cake was past the point of delicious and on its way to the Ninja Turtles, I was getting about ready to leave when I came across this headphone booth. Hundreds of headphones on 3 tables. No packages, no markings, just black headphones. Brand new. Maybe. They didn't look used. Just headphones. Thanks to my 2-year-old sister, I didn't have any headphones. I decided it was time to buy some new ones and approached the table. In the middle of the center table, there was a sign that said, $1. Fuck yeah, I'll buy some headphones for $1. I look around to find the person running the booth when I find a tiny old lady sitting in one of those creepy wickered chairs, her face completely void of emotion. She looked to be, I don't know, honestly, 120, and that's not a joke. You know that weird raisin grandma from SpongeBob? This woman looked like that thing's 3-month-old corpse. Also, not being ageist or anything, but the fact that she even knew what headphones were surprised me. I heard her body creak as she stood and walked towards the table. Her faded gray eyes met mine as I fumbled for my wallet. What was that chill I just felt? It felt like it scraped down my bones. Even being 3 feet away from her breath made it to my nose, almost causing me to vomit. The skin hung off her face like it wasn't even hers. As I handed her the $100 bill, she grabbed it and looked at me like she was about to stab me in the throat. I quickly gave her a $1 bill and just said I was joking. She looked like she could use some joy in her life. She looked like she hadn't smiled in 60 years, and had yet to. She was not impressed. She just scowled and sat back down. I stared as our eyes were still locked, then limped away, not breaking the eye contact. I love fucking with people. My sister screams from the back seat, causing me to turn around and see her wearing my new headphones. Not wanting them to end up like the last ones, I reached back, snatching them off her head, not really caring what her problem was. My leg was sore the whole ride home. Mountaintop is not the place to go with a broken leg. And I know most of you probably don't care why my leg is broken, but for those of you who are wondering, I fell. So apparently I didn't need the headphones as much as I thought, because I forgot I even bought the damn things until the following weekend. I had the house all to myself because, well, everyone else had plans and I'm a socially retarded loser. Not really, I just like to do all of my socializing through the computer screen as I listen to music. Unfortunately, we were in the middle of a heat wave and my insanely loud AC window unit was running non-stop and wouldn't shut the fuck up. Man, I wish I had some headphones, I thought. I do have some headphones. I bought some from that creepy bitch on Mountaintop that didn't have a sense of humor. I grabbed my new headphones and put them on to continue scrolling Facebook, or so I thought. When you're in a certain mindset, your brain can play tricks on you, make you hear things. Everyone knows that. But I wasn't in that kind of mindset. I had been trying for hours to crawl my way out of the funny cat video wormhole that I fell into, but damn, the related videos are what get you. If the thumbnail is of a kitten in a toy rocket ship, I have to watch it. Just as one cat did a triple backflip because of a cucumber, which I don't blame him, I hate them too, I heard the muffled sounds of someone banging on the door. Not knocking, banging like someone in a horror movie trying to escape a psychopath. A frantic and desperate pounding. I sat there listening to the door that sounded like it was about to explode off its hinges, paralyzed with fear. Who would need to beat on the door like that? Everyone has a key, and if they lost it, there's a spare key right beside the door. I got locked out a few months ago and had to climb through a window, prompting my neighbor to call the cops, thinking I was a burglar. I was wearing a ski mask, but only to scare my roommate. I mean, if I'm gonna break into a house, even my own, I'm gonna do it right. After regaining control of my body, I slid the headphones off, and the banging instantly stopped. Without my headphones, the house was quiet. Well, except for the fucking AC unit. Damn, that thing is loud. I looked out the back door to see nothing but the light from the moon casting a slight glow through the forest. I checked the locks on the doors and windows just in case someone did see value in my death, then took my place back at my computer, sliding my headphones back on. Just as the pads surround my ears, the banging starts again. First from the back door, then the front, followed by all the windows one by one, including the one 2 feet from me, all at the same time. The rhythm of my heart went from a smooth Mozart to that "Move Bitch Get Out the Way" song real fast. I jumped up, causing the headphones to rip off my head and the banging to stop. What the fuck is going on? After another perimeter check resulting in no answers, I sat back down in terrified confusion. It's gotta be noises in the video, I thought. So I rewound the video, unplugged the headphones, and listened. Cat drinking water. Person puts cucumber behind cat. Cat sees cucumber. Cat does 3-foot high triple backflip. No banging. Am I going crazy? One psycho banging on the door? Okay. But upwards of, 10 people banging on all the doors and windows? I've got to be going insane. I looked down at the unplugged headphones and pondered, then picked them up, slipping them on my head. Can we come in? Number 5. The last thing you want to come across when packing up your recently deceased parents' estate is their sex tape. But sometimes, it's exactly what you needed to find. People are here one day and gone the next. I didn't expect my parents to live forever. Of course not. But when someone is taken from you, you're left with the overwhelming feeling that maybe you could have done something. I had been there just a week earlier, I think. I have some new meds, they make my head a little fuzzy. Most people are lucky and will never have to know what it feels like to have someone close to them be murdered. Especially their parents. Especially both at the same time. I'd make a Batman joke, but I'm actually pretty torn up about it. I was at work when I received the call. Their bodies had been found completely nude, practically decapitated, and had been sexually assaulted. What reason would someone have to murder a random elderly couple in nowhere, Nebraska? No forced entry, well, other than the sexual assaulting part. Nothing was taken, so why? Long story short, I did my grieving, buried my parents, and the case went cold. I finally forced myself to get to their house, well, my house, and start packing. You never realize how many memories you leave behind when you leave home, until you have to go back and shove it all in fucking boxes. Photos, the journals my therapist made me keep. My parents went through a bad divorce when I was 8, resulting in a few months of foster care. They got back together 10 years later. They had each had other children, but I'm the oldest by 14 years. Thank God I brought a bottle of vodka. I couldn't sift through years of my life without it. As I downed the rest of the bottle, I noticed my old VHS camcorder peeking out from up underneath the bed. Intrigued, I stumbled over and pulled it out. The last thing I need in this drunken depression is old home movies. But fuck it, I'm already in this deep. Luckily, the one and only television in the house was a 12-inch VHS combo. Maybe that's why nothing was stolen. They never did keep up with technology. Don't get me wrong, they were loaded. I slipped in the tape and instantly realized that this was not my 3rd birthday party or family trip to the beach. It was my dad, knuckles deep in my mom. I blindly fumbled for the power button, desperately trying to get the sounds of my mom moaning to stop. After hitting every fucking button on the TV, I was finally met with blissful silence. But as I sat in that silence, I realized a few things. 1, I wasn't drunk at all anymore. 2, this video was recent. White hair and wrinkly bodies. And 3, the most confusing part of this nightmare. Someone else was filming it. I sat there, trying to make sense of what I had just witnessed, and had the earth-shattering realization that this had to be the person that killed my parents. Who could my parents have trusted enough to film them having sex? I mean, it was Pornhub quality. Maybe there's a clue to who this person might be. This may be the only evidence to help catch my parents' killer. But what was I gonna do? Take the video of my parents going ass to mouth down to the police station? I need real evidence. My only option was to see if I could find anything that would help me ID this person. I struggled internally as my finger hovered over the power button. Was I really gonna turn this shit back on? It's not like I hadn't seen porn before. Not that this is at all the same. But if I just ignore the fact that it's my parents, and only focus on looking for clues. I pushed the button. Nope. I turned it off as fast as I could. Am I just gonna let this guy get away? After a few seconds that felt like eternity, I pressed the power button. I don't look yet. I hesitate before slowly turning my head and staring at the horror. I feel as though strips of my soul are being ripped away from my body. Tears run down my cheeks as I turn away. Popping in and out of frame was the barrel of a gun. This was against their will. What kind of sick fuck could do this to people? After a few more hesitant glances, I did notice one more thing about the video. It took place in a crawl space under the house. As I crawled my way through the 2-foot gap between the floorboards of the house and the wet, muddy ground, choosing this over watching any more of that fucking video. I shine my light trying to find anything, something to justify coming down here. I find the cardboard stage used in the video. I spin around in circles, seeing nothing but mud and rocks. And my pill bottle that apparently fell out of my pocket. Can't lose those. I didn't even know they were in my pocket. That reminds me that I take one today. I can't get off track. I'm looking for clues. After 15 minutes, I was tired of being wet and cold for nothing, and went back inside. Is all this even worth it? What the fuck did they ever really do for me? Deciding to take one last chance with the video, I pressed play. Sitting inches from the screen, I looked for anything at all that could give me a clue. I saw it. I paused the video. I rewind and focus on the small window built into the house's foundation. It's a reflection. But this doesn't make sense. I don't understand. It was me. My memories came flooding back. The phone call. My dad saying that my house was going to be sold and split up upon their death. A sixth of the fucking profit. And I rushed here just to talk some fucking sense into him. To remind him who was there before anyone else. The only one that suffered fucking foster care. And I walked in, of course. They were in the middle of making another demon spawn to give part of my house to. Instantly yelling about me being off my meds again. Knowing how much it pisses me off. And I hate that fucking medicine. And I don't know where this fucking gun came from. But it's in my hand. I pointed it at him. And I told him, nah, go ahead and finish. I'll wait right here. You know, why don't you just go ahead and finish it in the crawl space under the house so I don't have to move your fucking bodies after I gut you. We were under the house. And I filmed my parents before I killed them. It was me. I did it. But they deserved it. They were nothing. Nothing but cattle. For slaughter. Number 6. Being a professional magician, having made hundreds of people disappear in my career, I was confident that this time would be no different. But it is different. To start off, this time the person is dead. I'm used to them walking back through a trap door on their own accord. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I've been an established magician for years. Me and Rita, my lovely assistant, have been traveling doing shows all across the country when we got a call from our agent, Matt. Finally, a resort in Vegas is interested in signing us. They requested that we put together a fresh routine and then perform 4 months later. Now, I'm a comedy magician, and personally, I have pages upon pages of new material, and one trick in particular that will blow everyone away. It'll take a little fabrication work, of course, and unfortunately, I'm not the best welder. But this is finally my chance to build it and become the next top magician. I know that sounds nerdy, but I'm about to hit it big, so whatever. Which brings us to where I am now. In my workshop. 1 week from the show of a lifetime, and I'm without my main trick, as well as my assistant. I'll survive without the trick. Like I said, I have a lot of new material, and would never stand on just one trick. And I've worked with audience members a million times, so the show will go on. I just have to get this mess cleaned up first. You understand, I really can't say much. I don't really want to give myself away. But I'll just say that during rehearsals, the damn welds didn't hold and the brackets for some support wires broke. Obviously, I can't be that guy that accidentally killed his assistant. It would ruin me. The metal wire did a pretty good job. She's already in a few pieces, so I guess I'll just continue that route and just dispose of a few small bags. I really do feel bad. Me and Rita have been together for years, but I can't let this get in the way of my new contract. Plus, a magician never reveals his secrets. Number 7.
Sometimes you make choices in life that dictate your every move until the day you die. I made one of those choices. I used to be an escort, not to be confused with a prostitute, although, at the bare bones of it, they're the exact same thing. Hey, calm down. You can get out of your cage in a minute. Anyway, they're both women, hired for their bodies. Prostitutes, usually just for sex. But escorts, they're performers. Actresses. I've been someone's wedding date, someone's wife on a business trip, even someone's fiancé at their family reunions. That being said, at the end of the day, they all want the same thing. And they pay me a lot for it. I know, by now, you're probably judging me pretty hard. And that's fine, because the way you feel about me now won't even begin to compare to how you'll see me after I tell you about my last client. He was my bad decision. The choice that now rules over my life. My number 1 client of 3 years just died in a car accident. I charged $800 an hour and he'd hire me for the whole night, so you can imagine how much money I lost after his death. He needed to be replaced, and fast. Now, there are a lot of ways to get new clients. I started out at casinos, watching for big winners, but in 2020, the best way by far is the dark web. I'm going to assume you don't know a lot about the dark web. Not a lot of people do. There are a lot of misconceptions about it, honestly, but it's just a whole bunch of people offering services that the government and society have deemed immoral and illegal. Fucking prudes. Of course, you could run across someone with malicious intent, just as you could at a restaurant, church, or hell, even Walmart. You just have to be safe and take all necessary precautions. I, obviously, couldn't be too picky at this time. I definitely wasn't going to find a client as wealthy as Johnny right off the bat. So, I was willing to take any job at that point. I posted my services in usual escort forums I had worked with before, and after about a month and 6 degrading jobs that I was forced to drop my pay for later, I received an email requesting services, but the details would be discussed in person. Even on the dark web, that's a strange request, but not unheard of. One of my first clients from the web had the same request, just so he could prove to me in person that he wasn't a weirdo, before he asked me to bite my toenails. He was actually a very sweet guy. Later, he ended up losing his job, so I just let him do it for free since it saved me a trip to the salon. Maybe this new guy has just got some weird fetish. My response was, I agreed to the meeting, but I'm not accepting the job until the details are agreed upon. He sent back an address for a coffee shop, downtown, and the time, 9 a.m. the next morning. I get there, and I instantly walked up to the counter to order my iced mocha. I don't talk business before coffee. I take a sip as I scan the room for someone that looks like they're here to meet an escort. I sit across from this man that looks as though he's never been in a coffee shop in his life. You should have at least ordered some coffee. You wouldn't look so awkward.
Yeah, well, I'm not the biggest fan of coffee. I assume this would be to your liking.
That's a sweet gesture, but I don't need to be buttered up. We're here for business. What's your business?
Well, my boss is requesting your company for a gala.
Your boss.
Yes, he would like to offer $30,000 for the night.
Okay, so what's the catch? A mere gala doesn't require this much secrecy.
Well, the boss has some deformities.
Deformities? What do you mean by deformities?
He just looks a little different.
Doesn't matter what he looks like as long as you're not hiring me to fuck a retard or anything.
No, of course not, no. He can be a little frightening, but he's perfectly normal. Here's the first 10,000. The other 20 will be given upon completion. The address is in the envelope.
The day of the gala came, and I put on my best dress and pearls, wondering what cause it was for. When I arrived, I was instantly amazed at how big the house was. I was greeted at the door by a man in a black cloak, which I thought was kind of weird, but, whatever.
The lord of the house has retired to his chambers. He is ready for you now.
I entered the house, not knowing that my life would change forever. Upon entering, I was immediately caught off guard. Everyone was wearing black cloaks except the rest of the entertainment, which was a mix of upper-class debutantes and freshly plucked hookers. It finally clicks. This is a cult. This Rocky Dennis motherfucker must be some god to these weirdos. I look around and I see, well, normal people drinking and having a good time, and 20-foot high metal door? What the fuck? The man from the meeting takes me by the arm and guides me through the crowd.
We're so glad you could make it. The boss has been expecting you. I'll take you to his chambers.
Before I knew it, I was standing in front of the big red door. Suddenly it opened and the sound paralyzed me as I was pushed through the door's threshold into the dim room. The door slammed shut behind me, and I'm frozen in place. Chills covering my body.
Hello.
His voice radiated through my body. I saw a silhouette rise from the chair in the corner of the room.
I apologize for the heat. I'm warm-blooded.
I held in my screams as his scaly gray hands reached out, grabbing both of my arms. The creature pulled me in close, running its snout down my neck. The warmth of his breath melted my chills away, relaxed my frozen in place body. He loosens his grip on my arms. Run, my brain told me, but I couldn't. I didn't want to. I wanted him inside me. His hand brushes across my cheek, tucks my hair behind my ear, tilts my head. I don't remember much after that. I came to my senses in the foyer, with a group of other women who also appeared to be waking up from a sex coma. Somehow, I was already holding my jacket and purse, so I walked straight towards the exits. As I walked past the man from the meeting, he said,
We'll see you next week.
I don't remember driving home. I don't remember going to sleep. I do remember waking up the next morning and downing 2 Plan Bs with a shot of Jack, finishing off the bottle, and going back to sleep. I woke up to the sounds of growling. Was that my stomach? I didn't feel hungry. I felt bloated and sick. My head was fucking killing me. I took a Loratab and I went back to sleep. I pretty much did nothing but sleep from Friday to Wednesday. I woke up in extreme pain. I heard the growling again. I got the usual. A 1/4 pounder value meal. It helped. Talk about hunger pains. Not long after, though, the pains came back and no amount of food helped. This was not hunger. The warm water of the hot tub was the only thing that helped. After the pain had dulled down to about a 6 out of 10, I fell asleep. I woke up in terror, noticing how extended my belly was. Great. I've done fell asleep in the hot tub and cooked myself like a fucking lobster. I start to try to stand up as I feel a surge of pain through my stomach. I sat back down and regained my strength to try again. This time, I see a bulge move across my stomach. As I screamed in agony, 4 cloaked men surrounded the hot tub. I passed out as they were pulling me out of the dark, bloody water. I wake up with my legs spread as I lay on the kitchen table. I felt all of the pain released from my body into the arms of this cloaked man. I just laid there as they left the room. As he turned the corner, I got a glimpse of the baby. It really was a monster. I didn't care if I bled out right there. I woke up on my kitchen table, sore, but able to walk. I took a shower, ate some Fruity Pebbles, and pretty much ignored the fact that I'm probably internally bleeding due to giving birth to some Antichrist demon child. It wasn't until after I remembered I needed to drain the bloody hot tub that I found this little guy. Apparently, it was twins. This one was born before the goon squad showed up. Poor thing couldn't climb his way out. He's actually kind of cute when you get used to him. He only eats raw beef or pork. He's growing fast, about 10 pounds a week, and don't worry about that. How many more of them are there? What's gonna happen when they're all grown? What should I do with it?